I'm Skip Schoolnik, the director.
The director. I'm David Fury, the co-writer.
I'm Steve DeKnight, co-writer.
I'm Juliet Landau. I played Drusilla.
And this is Destiny. One of my favorite episodes of season 5. This flashback is actually meant to be more or less a sequel to the flashbacks in the Buffy episode, Lies My Parents Told Me.
That you actually directed.
That's right. And so I got to, this was appealing to me that I wanted to see what are the events immediately following that. Spike killing his mom and bringing William home to meet Angelus.
Showing him the ropes.
Right. And it was wonderful to once again write the final Spike Drusilla scene. And I got to write the final one in Buffy and the final one in Angel, which was... Oh, I didn't write the final one in Angel. You came back again for
oh, that's right.
the Italy episode.
Right, yeah.
This was a really fun scene to direct. David particularly loves doing the Irish accent. And once they have their little tiff, he and James just were completely into it and really had a good time doing it.
They're always up for a little homoeroticism. David and James.
Yeah. The cuts on David's cheek from where he had been scratched didn't show up as nicely as we wanted them to. But I think they're still there. You see them.
They're from Darla, isn't that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They had a little tiff, too.
I think this was a scene when Joss saw it shot. He said, why don't they just kiss already? To do this, or some semblance of this, which I used. In fact, Ben actually contributed a great deal of the script. He wrote a lot of it later on, particularly in the second act. Oh, the irony. That worked out kind of nicely. We didn't have anything. We needed to reestablish that Spike is a ghost before he gets de-ghosted. So we needed something. And I wrote in that maybe we can take out one of those pillars in the lobby and have him walk through the pillar. Maybe that'll do it.
It's a nice shot.
Yeah, it actually worked out nicely. Leave of absence, I believe, was him getting married. Was it not? It wasn't Alexis getting married at this point?
I think
That's
it was,
correct.
Yes. Wow. Alexis and Allison Hannigan. Yeah, another reference to Lies My Parents Told Me. This effect worked pretty well, too.
Yeah, it was really a simple thing.
Very simple. You know, and we wanted it to be that. We wanted, we'd spent a lot of time talking about how is Spike going to be returned to corporeal form, and we had all these elaborate ideas and different things, and finally it was just, what if he just opens something and it goes poof, and he's back? And
there are certain things that make me laugh every time I see that episode.
James walking into a wall.
James walking into the door is one of them.
The thing about James that's so wonderful is that he is game for anything.
Yeah, and he's very good with physical comedy.
It's black. It went black. James will walk into anything. If there's any opportunity for James to walk into something, he will throw himself in.
Look at this beautiful show.
What's so cool about it is that you're seeing shots from season 1 right through season 5. You really see sort of a progression. You see young David, the immortal vampire, the ageless vampire, looking 5 years younger.
I'm noticing there are even shots in these opening credits that we cut out of episodes, so they're not actually there.
Well,
Is that
good.
right?
That's a special treat for the fans.
See if you can spot them.
Well, we updated the main title every season, and in this last season, we updated it in the middle of the season, a little later, when Mercedes became a regular.
Right. A little homage to Joss's script and conviction. Extra ingredient is otter. We took a lot of grief for Spike. For Spike suddenly having eyes for Harmony as he's been recorporealized after spending so much time investing in the Spike and Buffy relationship. That people felt we were betraying that with this. And I say it was Joss's contention that if Spike, having spent this time as a ghost, the first thing he'd want to do is get laid. He wanted to, Spike would certainly want that. And he always knows that Harmony is a willing participant, that he could always get to her. And a lot of people were very offended by that. A lot of the fans were, because they...
I'm not sure why. I mean, he is, yes, he's a vampire, but he's a guy.
Plus, what sold it is there's such a lightness to that moment.
There is to that moment, yeah, absolutely.
It's just fun.
This was, our attempt again on the cheap to do something different, which was a carriage ride with what we call the poor man's process of movement, where basically what you have is a bunch of guys pushing this thing so that it's shaking, and then you put a lot of mist outside the window, and we're supposed to believe they're actually on a carriage ride through jolly old England, when in fact they are just sitting in a box and.
Sitting in a box with very little room to shoot.
Yeah.
Hence the limited coverage.
But, it was something different than the hotel room.
Yeah, it ultimately works.
I think it works
quite well.
Definitely.
The thing I really enjoyed writing about this, writing these scenes, the flashback, is Spike Spike and Drusilla were a great couple. They really were. And Spike was completely and utterly devoted to her. And him believing that she is, in fact, that she has changed his life and she is his destiny, which is the perfect metaphor for the rest of the episode. But just seeing the romanticism of Spike, or I should say of William. It's the poet that never died inside William, even when he became a vampire. And he romanticizes his relationship with Drusilla, even though she's a monster and she's made him a monster, and he still romanticizes it. Here's the Alice Cooper makeup.
This is really my sense of humor, too. I think it's hysterical.
Hey, look, there's my name. And Steve.
Bravo.
And there's Skip's name.
Bravo.
Brava.
Bravo.
No, I borrowed a little bit of the madness that's sneaking into the office. Obviously, the makeup people had not seen that movie, or they wouldn't have given the splashy Alice Cooper-y eye makeup that we wound up with, instead of the sort of teardrop, which is much more disturbing in that movie. This is one of those tough scenes of exposition that you have to write, where you have to explain everything, and
But beautifully handled.
oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
No, definitely. The tricky thing with those scenes is that you've always got to try to throw in some humor to keep things going.
Yes.
And you did a good job there.
Also, when you have people entering, and exiting, like Sarah's just come in, Eve has just come in, and then Gunn is going to leave, and yeah, it's like being a traffic cop.
It's a car wash.
Yeah, and you're just trying to get the information out as quickly as possible in an entertaining a way as possible.
Well, it's one of the great beauties, I think, of Angel in general, is the way the humor is worked in with the drama. It's one of the most fun things for me to direct.
That's just the epilogue, princess.
Yeah,
And
it's
I-
one of the things as an actor that's fun too, in terms of bouncing between the humor and the dark elements.
I don't think anything.
You got to do that quite a bit.
Definitely.
Drusilla was always, like, on one hand was very funny and just kind of silly, and then she could suddenly turn and become something very scary. That was the fun part of writing her.
And playing it as well.
Well, I'll never know that pleasure. I never got to play her. Writing Eve is always trying to find how she can talk to people very condescendingly. She calls princess, kids, and sweetie in the same scene. It's like I'm superior to you, and that's the easy way of writing it. Kids again. I think I did 2 kids in this scene.
Right.
She was very good at, the character was very good at deflection. And I think Sarah was very strong in this particular scene at just keeping ahead.
All right, here's the other scene that got us in trouble. Specifically because this is probably a little rougher than we intended it to look.
Black.
Right. Sorry. The sex between Harmony and Spike in this scene was not as romantic as it could have been, or not as light-hearted. It became something.
I thought they were having fun.
I'm sure they were. I'm sure they
And
were.
the dailies were, I seem to recall, quite a bit more graphic.
Ooh,
Another
nice.
one of my
That's a
very
great
favorite
shot.
moments.
Yeah.
Great shot.
Harmony can take a punch. Because this is something Ben, actually, this is part of Ben's contribution to this and into our friend, what's his name? Cirque.
Right. I think this was the beginning of where Lauren says he popped me right in the coconut. And you remember Jeff Bell came in and said, we can't say coconut, melon. There's a whole line of things that we couldn't say.
Well, those are I consider those DeKnightisms. That's purely that was your usual description. If not in the dialogue, it certainly wasn't the action. And he gets knocked in the coconut. He gets hit in the melon. He gets.
Oh, she's so evil.
I thought that was a really great idea. I'm not sure who came up with that idea.
Which one?
That Spike, now that he's recorporealized, might be the one that the Shanshu prophecy speaks about.
I don't know exactly. I know that the idea of Spike and Angel fighting over the prophecy, I guess it would be Joss. I mean, we all kind of thought of it. But
That's a shocker.
Yeah, but I think Joss is the one who said, I want Spike and Angel to fight in this episode, and they should be fighting. They were fighting over Buffy. And we were very much like, well, it can't be just that because we don't have, but this is not the Buffy show anymore. And it was like, well, it's about who's really the guy, who's the guy the Shanshu is about, who is the, whose destiny is it to be the vampire who will play a part in the apocalypse, the vampire with the soul. We had to acknowledge the fact that we now had two characters, two vampires with souls, on the show. We couldn't just disguise that fact that Angel is no longer special. And Joss, he kind of threw it out. I don't think he ever meant for us to actually do it, but we did it. He said, and they're fighting over, I don't know, a cup or something. They have to drink a cup. And they drink a cup, one of them is the guy. And we're like, okay, all right, well, okay, we'll try to figure something out. And what we figured out was, what if they're drinking out of a cup?
Yeah.
What if they're fighting over a cup? We eventually came back around to that.
Oh, yes. 5 pages of exposition.
Yes,
he
but
handles it wonderfully.
he does.
Yeah.
He's terrific. And the scene, I think, this is Ben Edlund again, another contribution of his. I think this scene is a very difficult scene that I think he handled really well. Cirque was a character that I actually wrote. The first time he appeared was in the finale of season 4. And I originally called him Hitchcock. I don't know, I just gave him and then I think Joss decided Hitchcock's a little too on the nose, because, so let's call him another 50s.
Yeah.
Let's call him another director, Douglas Sirk. It's like, oh, okay. It seemed, but I think Tim actually is the one who came up with it or changed it to Sirk. But I just thought it was funny did it have to be another director?
I know after this episode, we kept trying to find a way to bring him back.
Oh, yeah.
Because we really liked him.
Yeah, he's terrific.
Yeah, we could not figure out. We were trying to make him one of the circle at the end, somehow have him tied into the Architects of the Apocalypse. But he seems like such really a tool, that rather than one of the architects. There was no way to we couldn't figure out a way to bring him back. He was somebody we wanted to bring back, just like we wanted to bring back Claire, clairvoyant from your episode. Hellbound. She was another character that we kept thinking, I know she dies in the episode, but...
what does that mean on this show?
Exactly. Or, here's her identical twin sister, but we like the actor so much, we thought, we could use another woman on the show. These are things that, as you're writing stories, like, eventually things fall away, but what could have been?
So the challenge for me in a scene like this is, how do you keep it moving? How do you make it interesting at all? So my solution to it was to shoot everything I could think of. I mean, I think our producer Kelly was a little taken aback at how many different angles I shot on this. And the reality is, we used every angle that was shot.
You have so many people in it, so yeah.
It really doesn't. I don't think the scene drags at all.
No.
I think it's. I think there's a lot of great funny in it, and I think it looks great.
I think with any less coverage, it might have dragged a bit.
I agree.
You can really keep it moving.
And the desert.
He's so compelling in his deliverance of all the information, too.
Yes, he is.
And he was a trooper. I mean, if you can imagine how many times he had to deliver all the dialogue on everybody's coverage.
Now, is that true, or did we make that up?
We pretty much made it up. I mean,
I almost buy that.
Yeah, you almost do. Here's the thing: the only reason that the the climax of the second half of the show takes place in an opera house is purely because Kelly found a location that says, "I love this location. We got to use it."
Yeah.
It would be great to shoot it, and it looks pretty. So it's actually a theater, and it's not black. It's actually a theater that that we decided to call an opera house. We just thought it would. We figured it because it was an attractive place to shoot, but it could have been anywhere. We had talked that it was going to be caves at one point. Our usual, chamber of caves, or we talked about it being somewhere in Los Angeles. We talked about a lot of different things, but ultimately, since our producer Kelly found this great theater, we decided let's do it there.
It was a great location to shoot and give us a lot of different levels.
Yeah. It was the first time that when I was working on the fight scene, I was actually able to see the location first and then design the fight around it.
And actually, Steve wrote this very elaborate fight, which is much more elaborate than what we did.
Which is what I always do with a fight scene. I always write it twice as expensive as we can afford.
Which was great. It would have been great to do it. We just didn't have the time.
I feel like, what? I didn't miss anything.
No, neither did I.
Whatever you shot in there, it feels like it was this fight scene that Steve wrote. I mean, it feels like
it
feels like you didn't leave anything out because it feels so full. And
I pretty much try to stay true to the writer's vision of it. There were one or two things in the fight that we changed.
For the better.
But really very little.
Again, that's our usual way of hanging a lantern on the tight security at Wolfram and Hart, where we've had, we keep saying Wolfram and Hart's a very difficult place to get into. The security here is, and we've had cyborg attacks. We've had anybody basically who wants to can get into the place, and we needed to sort of hang a lantern on that, which is why Eve is kind of commenting on, wow, this,
Another night shoot? Was it?
It was like golden hour. We had no lights at all. And we went way outside of town to shoot it.
This is where Steve's magic kicks in here. Spike and Angel in the opera house, and their argument throughout the fighting, which is just fantastic. And it makes cases for both of them.
Wasn't this fairly soon after David had knee surgery, Skip?
No.
Or was it before?
It was just before.
It was right before. Right.
Originally, David was scheduled to direct this episode. But because of all that took place, he shifted over to do 10, where he could be more seated.
Here's an important scene.
Yes. Yes, and jealous. We get to the bottom of the... we always knew there was a little triangle there right from the beginning when Spike and Drusilla arrived in Sunnydale. There was always... but to actually witness Angelus having his way.
Well, it also reveals a lot about Drusilla, which Juliet played so beautifully, in that you can't count on anything. There is no morality, there is no loyalty.
Which is true for every vampire.
Yeah.
Except for William. William, as we evolved the character of Spike, it became more and more clear that he was an anomaly, that he held on to certain values, human values that other vampires let go of, and that's been a fun thing to explore through both through Buffy and through Angel, is that he in fact is a better man than Angel. Angel was, he is actually more moral than Angel.
Well, he's held on to some of his humanity,
which is why this is a really interesting fight between the two of them, because Spike is actually probably deserves it more than Angel does, to a large extent. I mean, that's just an interesting thing. I mean, Angel, yes, he's been trying to atone for many years now, but
when I wrote this fight, one of the things that I really wanted to get through in the script is that it was a vicious fight, and they ended up bloodied and battered. And it's one of the fights on this show that I thought that idea was really carried all the way through, because by the end they are just wrecked.
Oh, yeah.
William approaches James, and Spike approaches this whole thing with the certainty of knowing that he's right, and it really pisses Angel off.
And Spike makes some really good points that I think makes Angel uncomfortable.
No, it's great. I mean, that's what's so wonderful about these scenes, I think, is that you keep going back and forth with who do you want to win? Who's making the more valid point here? Yes, that's true, but I'm this, and it could go either way. The beautiful thing about this fight, it could go either way.
This is great, and James was so ready to do all this flying. He just loved it. It was such a plus for us and for the episode that he was willing to do it.
Yeah. Oh, the wonderful lab set.
Yeah.
My nightmare every single time.
Three directors here can tell you it was a very, very difficult.
I lost on that set every single time I shot there.
There was a lot of things to move out of the way. There were a lot of hard, difficult angles to get to, hard to make it interesting. And that's a weird thing right now. It's a very weird thing that Amy calls, or Fred calls him Gunn there. Because Fred used to be involved with him and always called him Charles.
Always.
I would almost chalk this up to a mistake. Almost. I'm not going to admit to anything.
I'm sure we meant it.
Yeah, there you go. But it's one of those things where I go, she shouldn't have called him Gunn, should she? She really should have called and said Charles.
I think originally it was Charles, and you changed it to Gunn.
No.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
You're just trying to pick a fight.
Oh, maybe.
Wait, yes. we can. I think we should explain. We actually did fight over this episode.
Yes, this was I was coming off episode 4, which was extremely excruciating for me, and I had to go right into helping David on this one, and I was not in the best of moods.
And I enlisted Steve because, again, it was a very short writing period. I needed someone who could write, and I had 2 acts of a fight to write. And the best person to go to is Steve, because bar none, he writes the best fights on the show.
He writes great fights.
He writes the movie fights that we can't afford.
I'm going to interject right here. Here's a great change to the fight. Originally, Spike just jumped down, but I love the way you use these levels to punctuate what he's saying.
I felt it was, I liked that part of it, but I also didn't want him to do the same thing that he had just done on the other side.
Right.
That was a great addition.
Anyway, so Steve and I had in the course of writing it, in an original, off the original outline, Angel originally won this fight. And during the writing of it, it became very clear, like from scenes like this, that Spike has to win the fight. Spike is taking everything. Spike is being beaten down in all of these scenes. He has to win the fight, or it'll feel like a letdown. And I told Steve that right before he was about to hand in his version where Angel wins, thinking, well, it won't really matter because he's writing a fight that either one of them could win, but here's the scene where we decide who wins and just change that scene.
Sounds easy, doesn't it?
but and he was not too happy about being told after all the work he'd done that Spike has to win. I don't think it really changed. Did it really? Was there a huge?
It was a bit of a shift, but I mean, I was just plain unhappy. It had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I just want to say something about something that's coming up here, which is when Spike says to me that we're going to be together forever and
Right.
that Angel is wrong. That it's a really important moment in the writing because it's this moment where he sort of touches my heart in a way that no other character does, and it's sort of the inception of the epic love affair that goes on for 200 years between us.
Absolutely right.
And it's the moment that Drusilla realizes, oh, this is a possibility,
Right.
and learns from him.
That's great that you that came off the page, and you certainly played it beautifully. But that's exactly what I wanted to be. Like, this is when she goes, oh, we're going to be this great couple throughout, for many years. It's going to be about you and me. And she understands it on an intellectual level, even if she doesn't, where Spike might, or William/Spike might be more romanticizing it. I think she just goes, like, oh, all right, let's play these roles. I mean, I love that.
This was part of the fight that was just so well written and so well done. We did the wider shot first, and actually everybody on the set stopped and applauded when we had finished. And I really thought maybe I shouldn't shoot any other coverage for it. I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did too.
But the guys were so into it and they were so good.
I've made that mistake before where I see a scene, I shoot wider, and it's played so great, and I go, what, that's it, let's move on. And then I'll go, I'll be so moved because the performances are so great, and go, you know what, getting that coverage, getting closer in some moments, having that option is so important.
It really is.
Yeah, for me, I do it almost instinctually because of all the years I spent in the editing room.
Right.
And just knowing I can use it.
Ross Berryman's cinematography for this is just fantastic.
Yes.
This whole episode.
Beautiful,
The fight
really
especially.
beautiful.
I can't sing enough praise
He's
for
amazing.
Ross Berryman. He's an amazing man.
I'd like to hear you sing a little praise.
You really wouldn't. Ross is the most even-tempered human being I've just ever worked with, or maybe even met.
Unflappable.
I mean, in the tightest of moments when everybody's yelling and screaming and we're going over, and Ross just stays cool.
Yes, he does.
He's
exceptional.
Such a plus to work with.
I think this was a late edition scene, wasn't it, Steve? Wasn't
I
this?
think it was, yeah.
I think we decided we needed this scene to sort of set up what we knew was going to be our big shocking end to this episode.
Mm-hmm.
When we reveal who Eve is in league with.
Yeah.
And we needed to sort of tease it and also maybe think, we were hopefully trying to get the impression, maybe she's not bad.
Yeah.
Maybe she's...
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe there's... she's trying to say, I'm not the bad guy. Maybe, it must be somebody else, and I'm not...
There's ambiguity to it.
Yeah.
I think Sarah did a great job selling that, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because you really feel sympathetic for her in this scene.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you are.
And you believe her.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that you guys were fighting. This is one of the episodes you were fighting, and what you were writing was this enormous fight.
Yeah, we know.
Maybe you were play
The
acting.
irony is not lost.
Okay.
Just so you know, I think
But,
Steve was Spike in that fight, so I think...
You know,
He won.
The end to the DeKnight Fury fight was Jeff Bell in a soothing, calm voice talked us down, and there was a hug at the very end.
So were you bloodied like this?
There was a little bit of...
We both felt really, really bad about it.
Well, I kind of enjoyed it a little bit.
You would.
Sometimes you just have to blow off a little steam.
You really do.
The amount of hours and
That's right. That's right.
All right. Now here's a scene. We went round and round with what was in that cup. What kind of beverage was in that cup?
what were some of the preliminary ideas?
It started out, I think my first thing was it's Fresca.
Yeah, Fresca.
I think Fresca was the first thing. It was like, it's
Mountain
Fresca.
Dew. What did it end up
Well, it ended up
being?
being Mountain Dew. Isn't
Right.
It? So I think it started out as Fresca, but some people were like, no, nobody knows what Fresca is or something. I don't know.
Mountain Dew's also-
Fresca sounded funny to me.
Mountain Dew's funnier, I think, in the end.
Well, okay. I still like Fresca.
Sorry, Dave.
It was a product placement
It's
issue.
Fresca. Yes. We weren't sure. That was one of the issues with us, exactly, is we weren't sure we could say anything.
Right.
We couldn't name a
It was great.
product.
I just love how bloody these guys are at the end of this
Oh, yeah,
fight.
they're a mess. And it's just a great thing of like, I don't really care. And this plays great. It's just, oh my God, what is it? What is it? Perpetual torment.
Can I tell you how many takes it took to get that goblet to fall in frame?
Really?
It's just their looks is like, it's Mountain Dew, and they're just dead serious looks. Like, it's Mountain Dew.
Yes, another lab scene.
The glorious lab scene.
I don't know.
You know, whatever parts of the weaknesses in this episode, the flashbacks and the fights I'm so proud of, and I think work so well that I think that's all, you know, sometimes you forgive anything like this makeup.
Yeah.
You know, like the weird bloody makeup, Alice Cooper makeup. You forgive all that because there was an incredible story told there.
What the hell happened?
That's why I say it's one of my favorites.
Apparently.
As far as the flashbacks go, the three of us always have so much fun when we get together in terms of it being like there's just surprises in terms of everybody's choices and stuff, that it's really sort of infectious and fun.
It shows.
It's always great to see those. Now, when we sent this episode to the network, this was the last scene. They saw we shot the real last scene, but we didn't give it out because we were trying to keep it a secret.
And it almost worked.
It worked up until I think about 5 days before we aired, because at that point David was shooting, Boreanaz was shooting his episode. With Sole Purpose, and they had a crowd scene in a bar, and one of the extras saw Lindsay, saw Christian there, and even though we were calling Christian something else at the time, we were calling him Sean, I think, just to throw people off. And but of course, one of the extras who was there on the set reported it, and it got reported really about 5 days before the air date of this. But since we shot this like many weeks before, we kept it a secret.
Longer than I thought we could.
Much longer than I thought we could.
It was very, very close.
You mean the so
I never knew that's how it got out.
Yeah.
yeah. It was somebody from the set. It was an extra from the set. And when we find him, he's a dead man.
Yeah, if you're watching this,
He's a dog.
We know who you are. We know where you live. No, we eventually gave up trying to keep anything a secret. But that was a really good run. That was a good attempt.
it was the best one.
So we thought, or the network thought, that the ending of this episode was Angel saying, "What if I'm not the one? What if the show should be called Spike?" Essentially, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
What if I'm not the guy who's meant to do this? Executive producer Joss Whedon. But instead,
The plot thickens.
and this, fans, is known as a oneer.
Yes, it is.
No edits. There's no coverage in this one. It's one shot.
A very tricky oneer,
Yes.
if I recall.
It was tricky and it was difficult, and Sarah was a trooper, and she got better, I think, every time we did it.
When we saw this, we all commented we really loved the shoe shot. I don't know what that says about us, but it was very, very sexy.
Well, that was one of the directions that I told that Sarah and I worked on, was that we were trying to sell sex until the reveal.
Oh, and by the way,
And you really do. I mean, you never see anything, but it's extremely sexy.
It's Lindsay with
Sean.
It's not Sean.
It's
Lindsay.
Sean. This landed big, though. I mean, most people did not know about this. This
Yeah.
was a very
Startling.
became one of our great ending scenes of the season.
I'd forgotten how good that episode was.
Me too.
I'd remembered it being better, but still, I'm still proud of it.
That's why we love him, folks.
But it was such a pleasure, and it was great talking, revisiting this with Juliet and Steve and Skip.
It's nice being in the room with you guys again.
Yeah. I was thinking on the drive over here that at this time we would have been starting shooting.